Chapter 1. Sunlight poured through the crystal windows of the Flowerland Palace, casting rainbow prisms across Odette's elegant hands as she arranged the final bouquet. Pink roses nestled against blue ones, with daffodils adding delicate whispers of white. Perfect, like everything else she had prepared for today's gathering. Your Majesty? A servant appeared at the doorway, bowing low. The kitchen requires your approval on the final menu arrangements. Odette straightened, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her flowing gown of spring green silk. Of course, I'll be right there. The Fae Queen glided through the palace corridors. Human and Fae servants bowed and stepped aside as she passed. For 200 years she had walked these halls, and still, the sunlight streaming through stained glass windows filled her with joy. This was her realm, a place of eternal sunshine, of celebration and beauty. If only today's guest list hadn't been amended. In her private study, the royal chef presented an array of delicacies. Odette sampled each, nodding approvingly at the subtle flavors of nectar and honey. Excellent as always, Marlowe, though. She hesitated, remembering their unexpected guest. Perhaps we should include something more fitting for the king of the Darklands. The chef's expression soured. Raw meat, Your Majesty? Blood pudding? I've heard that's what they prefer down below. Odette suppressed a shudder. Let's simply add more mushroom dishes. They grow in darkness, don't they? After dismissing the chef, Odette moved to the balcony overlooking the royal gardens. Below, attendants scurried about placing lights in trees and arranging cushions on elegant lawn chairs. Everything had to be perfect. Her husband, King Florian, had been quite clear about the importance of this diplomatic gathering. The Darklands border our kingdom. He had explained when Odette protested the addition to their guest list. King Bastian controls the underground waterways that feed our streams. We can't afford to slight him. Odette sighed at the memory. Her husband was right, of course. Politics required occasional unpleasantness. But why did it have to be him? The one guest that would cast a dark shadow over her meticulously planned celebration. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she called. A messenger bowed. Your Majesty, King Florian asks that you join him in the throne room. King Bastian Ravencloak's advance party has arrived to inspect the security arrangements. So soon? Odette felt her heart sink. The party wouldn't begin until sunset. Leave it to the Darklands king to start his tormenting early. Tell my husband I'll join him shortly. After the messenger departed, Odette checked her reflection in a nearby mirror. Her blonde hair was perfectly arranged in a crown of braids, intertwined with white flowers. Her blue eyes were bright against her fair skin, and her gown caught the light like morning dew on grass. She would not let King Bastian's gloom diminish her shine. This was her palace, her realm of light. Let him bring his creepy little shadows. She would ensure they didn't spread. With a final adjustment to her floral crown, Odette left to find her husband. The throne room of the Flowerland Palace was a marvel of crystal and living plants. Walls of clear quartz allowed sunlight to pour in from every direction, while flowering vines climbed elegant columns. King Florian stood beside his throne, stunning in his formal attire of royal blue and gold. His long blonde hair was tied back, highlighting the strong angles of his handsome face. Though they had married through arrangement, Odette had always found her second cousin pleasing to look upon. Before him stood 3 figures dressed in black. They stood too still, their movements too mechanical. The undead servants of the Darklands king. Odette suppressed a shudder. "Ah, my queen," Florian called, noticing her arrival. "Come and join us. King Bastian's attendants are ensuring our arrangement will suit their master's needs." Odette approached with forced grace, her smile fixed firmly in place despite her discomfort. As she drew closer, one of the black-clad figures turned, and she nearly gasped. The face was familiar. Galen, who had served as a head gardener in the East Wing only 3 summers past. His skin held the grey pallor of death, his once warm eyes clouded and vacant. "Your Majesty," the dead man said, his voice hollow. "The King of the Darklands sends his regards and looks forward to this evening's festivities." Odette managed a nod, words failing her. This was why she detested the underground realm. The disrespect of using the animated dead, former subjects of Flowerland no less, as servants. "We are prepared to receive His Majesty with due honor," she finally replied, her voice betraying none of her distaste. "I trust our arrangements will be satisfactory." The dead servant inclined his head. "King Bastian has one request. He would prefer a position away from the direct path of tomorrow's sunrise." Of course, the arrangement had been deliberate. Odette had hoped the early morning light might encourage their weird king to depart sooner rather than later. "We shall make the necessary arrangements," Florian answered before Odette could respond. The dead servants bowed, then departed to report back to their master. "Must we really endure his presence?" Odette hissed. "Those servants, they were our people once." Florian's expression grew serious. "It is precisely because of such practices that we must maintain diplomatic relations. Better to keep Bastian Ravencloak as an ally than an enemy." Odette nodded reluctantly. "As you wish. I'll have the seating rearranged." As sunset approached, Odette personally inspected every detail one final time. The garden glowed with thousands of tiny lights. Tables gleamed with golden settings, and the air was perfumed with the scent of night-blooming flowers. Other guests began to arrive, nobles from across Flowerland and allied territories, all dressed in the bright colors of spring and summer. But then, like a storm cloud eclipsing the sun, a chill swept through the gathering. Conversation died mid-sentence, replaced by a heavy silence. The lights dimmed as if their very essence was being consumed. At the garden entrance stood a colossal figure, so tall he had to duck beneath the flowered archway. His shoulders were impossibly broad, his chest a fortress of muscle barely contained by the obsidian black armor. King Bastian Ravencloak. Darkness itself appeared to cling to him. Shadows coiled around his boots and lapped at the ground like hungry hounds. Where he walked, the grass withered, leaving ashen footprints in his wake. His face remained half hidden beneath a hood of material so black it seemed to be cut from the night sky itself. But Odette could see the sharp, angular planes of his jaw, and the thin line of his mouth. 2 millennia of existence had carved his features from granite, leaving nothing soft or yielding. Odette steeled herself, raising her chin as she and Florian moved to greet their final guest. Even from a distance, the ancient power that emanated from Bastian felt like a physical weight, pressing the air from her lungs. "King Bastian," Florian said brightly, extending his hand. "Welcome to our celebration." Bastian's hand engulfed Florian's completely, his pale skin stark against the obsidian rings that adorned his fingers. When he finally spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. so deep that it seemed to vibrate in Odette's chest. King Florian. 2 symbols, nothing more. As Bastian released Florian's hand, his hood fell back, revealing his full face for the first time. His skin was alabaster pale, almost luminous in its whiteness, making the absolute blackness of his eyes all the more startling. No whites, no iris, just endless pits that seemed to look through rather than at the world around him. His platinum hair was pulled back severely from his face, revealing a widow's peak sharp enough to draw blood. When his gaze turned to Odette, she felt pinned in place, unable to breathe or blink. Queen Odette. His enormous hand extended toward her, an unavoidable demand of protocol that she could not refuse without insult. Odette forced a smile and extended her hand as tradition required. Her slender fingers seemed frail and childlike as they approached his massive palm. The moment their skin touched, a spark flashed between them, bright blue and electric. A collective gasp rose from nearby guests as energy crackled around their joined hands. Odette felt it like a lightning strike through her entire body. Her eyes widened as she met Bastian's gaze. For the first time in perhaps centuries, the ancient king's impassive mask shattered. His black eyes widened in genuine shock. The shadows around him recoiled violently, as if even they were startled. A searing pain shot through Odette's palm where Bastian had touched her. She gasped, pulling her hand away to find an intricate crimson mark blooming across her skin. Delicate vines interwoven with thorns and tiny skulls, forming a perfect circle. On Bastian's massive palm, an identical mark appeared, the red lines vibrant against his pale skin. "The sacred bond," someone whispered, the words rippling through the crowd. Bastian stared at the mark on his palm, as if it were a betrayal from his own flesh. They were now mated for the rest of eternity. King Florian's smile vanished, replaced by disbelief that quickly transformed into something darker, a mixture of hurt and anger. His blue eyes darted between his wife and their guest, then fixed on the damning mark on her palm. "No," he said, his voice breaking. "This cannot be." Bastian did not acknowledge Florian's distress. His attention remained on Odette, the weight of his ancient gaze holding her captive. The bond between them pulsed like a living thing, drawing them toward each other despite their mutual shock. Murmurs spread through the crowd, growing in volume. Odette caught fragments of whispered conversations. "The Queen and the Shadow King. The sacred bond hasn't appeared in centuries. She must go with him immediately. The ancient laws demand it." The last comment struck Odette like a physical blow. Leave Flowerland? Abandon the surface world for the darkness below? The mere thought was unbearable. "Florian," she pleaded, reaching for her husband's arm. "I don't want this. There must be some way to—" The King of Flowerland recoiled from her touch. His handsome face twisted with disgust. "Do not touch me with that hand," he hissed, staring at the crimson mark. "The laws are clear. You belong to him now." His words cut deeper than any blade. For 200 years they had ruled together, and in an instant, she had become something foreign to him, something to be cast aside. "I am still your wife," Odette insisted, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Florian's expression hardened further. "No. The moment that mark appeared, our marriage ended. Fate has spoken." He turned to address the shocked gathering, his voice formal and cold. "The celebration is concluded. All guests will depart immediately." "King Florian," Bastian rumbled, "your wife requires time." Florian's jaw tightened. The ancient laws are absolute. The queen must go with her fated mate. The longer you remain here, the greater risk of magical instability between our realms. We all know what happened the last time a sacred bond was ignored. The courtiers exchanged fearful glances. All had heard the terrible tales of the withering, when a queen of a distant realm had refused her fated mate. How flowers had turned to ash, water to poison, and the land itself had begun to die, forcing her compliance to save her people. The mark on Odette's palm throbbed painfully, as if responding to the tension between the two kings. She clutched her wrist, trying to hide the damning symbol, but the glow of it was visible even through her closed fingers. Bastian's gaze never left Odette. Something passed between them through the newly formed bond. Not emotion exactly, but awareness. He could sense her distress, just as she could feel his reluctance beneath the stony exterior. After what seemed like an eternity, Bastian inclined his head a bare inch. "I'll meet you at the gate." With that he turned, the darkness gathering around him like a cloak as he strode away, his undead servants falling into step behind him. "How could you do this to me?" Florian hissed. "After everything we've built together." "I didn't choose this," Odette cried, holding up her marked palm. "Do you think I want to leave my home, my gardens, the sun itself? Do you think I want to live in some creepy cave with that monster? It doesn't matter what either of us wants. The mark has chosen, and the law is absolute." He turned away from her. "I will dispatch messengers to inform the High Court. By tomorrow, they will send a spring nymph to take your place as queen." "You've already arranged my replacement? In the span of minutes?" "I am king," he said coldly. "My duty is to Flowerland first. We need a queen with power over growth and renewal." He glanced at her marked palm. "Your power now belongs to the Darklands." Palace guards closed in around Odette, their faces carefully blank as they herded her through the garden. Odette's mind reeled with the suddenness of it all. One moment queen, the next an exile, without even a change of clothes. "This is unnecessary cruelty, Florian," she cried. "You said that you love me. You promised that." "The bond is sacred." He didn't meet her gaze. "Take her to the gates. Her new master awaits." The crimson mark on Odette's palm pulsed painfully, as if responding to her distress. Bastian Ravencloak stood waiting beside the gate, his enormous form radiating cold power. The shadows around him writhed with agitation, responding to some emotion that his stony face refused to betray. "The bond-marked female is delivered," announced the captain, pushing Odette forward with such force that she nearly fell at Bastian's feet. "Flowerland releases all claim of her." Bastian's gaze swept over the scene, taking in Odette's disheveled state and the guard's hasty retreat. Though his expression remained largely unreadable, something dangerous flickered in the depths of his ancient eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the resonant authority of 2 millennia, each word measured and precise. "This dishonor shall not be forgotten." "Close the gates," called the captain, already retreating. The enormous obsidian doors swung shut, sealing Odette on the wrong side, trapped between the closed kingdom and the downward path to the Darklands. Bastian observed the closing gates, his enormous figure perfectly still. Then he raised one hand. Darkness responded to his summons, swirling around them, thickening until it formed a solid wall of shadow. I must ask that you hold your breath, Bastian instructed, his deep voice penetrating the darkness with calm authority. The passage between realms can be difficult at first. Before Odette could respond, the world dissolved around them. She felt weightless, formless, as if her very atoms had been scattered. Cold beyond imagining seeped into her soul, stealing her breath, her thoughts, her sense of self. Then, just as suddenly, Odette gasped, her knees buckling as her feet touched ground again. They were no longer at the gate. The throne room of the Darklands stretched before them. Walls of polished obsidian rose hundreds of feet to a ceiling lost in shadow, their surfaces reflecting distorted images like dark mirrors. Massive pillars carved from bones supported archways adorned with scenes of ancient battles, each figure's face frozen in agony. No natural light existed here. Instead, blue flames burned in sconces of twisted metal, their glow insufficient to banish the pressing darkness that gathered in corners and clung to the vaulted ceiling. The floor beneath Odette's feet was black marble, veined with crimson that pulsed faintly, like blood flowing through stone arteries. The air hung heavy with the scent of ancient dust and something metallic, the smell of magic older than memory. No sound existed here. No distant voices. No signs of life. The silence pressed against Odette's ears like a physical force, making her gasps for air seem thunderous by comparison. A sudden, searing pain shot through Odette's arm, radiating from the crimson mark on her palm. She cried out, collapsing to the cold marble floor as the agony traveled up her arm and across her chest, a burning line that seemed to reach for her heart. Across the chamber, Bastian fell to one knee, his massive frame shuddering with the same torment. His marked palm blazed with crimson light, pulsing in perfect synchronization with Odette's. "What's happening?" Odette gasped. "The mark," he groaned. "It requires contact to stabilize." Odette watched him approach through a haze of agony, her own body convulsing with each pulse of the mark. Some part of her wanted to retreat, to deny this connection thrust upon her. But another part, a deeper, more primal part, recognized the only path to relief. "Your hand," he commanded, though the words emerged as more plea than order. He extended his own marked palm, crimson light pouring from between his fingers like blood. Trembling, Odette lifted her hand to meet his. The moment their marked palms touched, the searing pain vanished, replaced by a flood of sensation so intense she gasped. Not agony, but something far more dangerous. Heat surged between them, racing along veins and nerves, awakening parts of herself Odette had forgotten existed. Bastian's obsidian eyes widened. "The ancient magic," he breathed. "It demands more." Their eyes remained locked, their joined hands pulsing with crimson light that began to spread, tendrils of glowing red crawling up their arms, across their shoulders, reaching for their hearts. With their free hands, they reached for each other. Bastian's massive palm cupped Odette's face with surprising gentleness, while her fingers tangled in his platinum hair, pulling him toward her with strength she didn't know she possessed. Their lips crashed together with the violence of a storm breaking. The throne room trembled, shadows whirling frantically around them as their king's iron control shattered completely. They collapsed together onto the cold floor, neither caring about dignity or station. Odette listened to the slow, steady heartbeat, closing her eyes in her wariness. Their hands met on the bed sheets and locked together, Odette's marked hand over his. She knew that everything in her world had changed, but the tether connecting her and this magnificent beast didn't seem so bad after all. Thank you for listening to Mated to the Ancient Fae. This audiobook has been edited to comply with YouTube rules by removing any spicy scenes. To read the full version with spicy scenes, please search for Mated to the Ancient Fae by Beatrix Steam on Amazon, Audible, or other audiobook retailers. Find more spicy stories and free spicy ebooks at beatrixsteam.com.